Last week I posted a video speculating on what we might expect from a sequel to Planet Coaster, and goodness didn't it tickle the algorithm's fancy. At the time of recording this, it's at almost 7,000 views, 135 comments and counting. I'd like to thank you all very much for joining the conversation, as we've received some wonderful suggestions of what you'd like to see in Planet Coaster 2. A few people stated that there's no reason for a sequel, and that all of these features should just be added to the original. And to be honest, I don't blame you. I thought that way for a long time too. But the sad truth is, the game just couldn't handle it in its current state. Not only this, but Frontier finished development on the game a couple of years ago now. So, the community have spoken, but what have they said? I've spent my Friday afternoon reading every single comment from both YouTube and Reddit and collating the data into a spreadsheet, because by Jove do I love a spreadsheet. At the time of recording this, there were a total of 48 different suggestions, so I'll keep this brief and give you the top 13, as that's any feature that was suggested at least 3 times. I've excluded any suggestions I already mentioned in the first video. So listen up Frontier, because this is what the Planet Coaster community want from a sequel. Number 13, lockers. Whilst we have a few lovely TMTK lockers, they of course aren't functioning. As the many signs like to remind us, loose articles must be removed before riding the coaster, but yet the poor guests currently have nowhere to put them. Tragic. It would be wonderful to have a locker system as part of the queue, and perhaps if you don't utilise it, there's a possibility guests will lose phones and hats in the ride area. Coming in at number 12 is parades. Parades are a major part of some of the larger theme parks, namely Disney. Made up of floats and characters, these would be a great feature to add some immersion to any park. My concern would be in the implementation and customization. I can't easily see a mechanic that would allow for the amount of flexibility players would need for a truly custom parade and its route through the park, but a great suggestion nonetheless. Number 11, on-ride photos. It's almost a crime that this isn't a feature of Planet Coaster, a truly basic feature that's existed in pretty much every predecessor and something that's incredibly easy to implement. I would be shooketh to my core if we don't see this in Planco 2. 10. Improved ride checks and ride faults. This one's a big one. Yes, we have mechanics coming to do inspections every so often, but they don't really mean much. I'd love to see ride operators doing physical safety checks, and perhaps every so often we get specific faults, such as stuck restraints and faulty sensors. Just tagging onto this, I find it very frustrating that ride operators aren't treated like other staff members. I feel like they should be hireable and require breaks just like vendors. Number 9. Improved prestige and finance system. Ride prestige is entirely warped and often nonsensical. You have a well-themed Lunar Autos and you'll have grown adults sprinting to it before the coasters. Similarly, just because a ride has been there for a few years doesn't mean it's suddenly boring. People haven't stopped riding Oblivion just because it was built in 1998. On another note, the way the pricing system works means you can charge upward of $20 for a single coaster ride, whereas most parks work on a one-off park entrance fee. The whole ride and general park management malarkey needs a massive overhaul to closer match what we experience in the real world. 8. Improved coaster customization. Right now you can maybe swap out the train and at most pop the ride name on the front car in some terrible font. Quite a few of you have asked for more train swaps and improved car customization, such as numbering, adding logos and theming trains. Speaking of those terrible fonts, coming in at number 7 is improved signs and fonts. This has been a complaint of mine since the very beginning. Let me be frank, the fonts are not good, and what frustrates me more is that there's no reason they should be so bad. In my opinion, Planet Coaster 2 should come with a huge list of optimized fonts and the ability to add your own font files, similar to how we use custom media and music now. Number 6, multiple stations. So many coaster and track rides utilize 2 stations, one for entry and one for exit. This streamlines the loading process, allowing for larger throughput, and is a major feature missing from the current game. 5. Station customization. Whether it's double-sided stations for the wing coasters or rounded ones for the water rides, station customization seems to be a hugely demanded feature. As it stands right now, it's the same basic station for whatever coaster or track ride you happen to be building, and the people want more options. Number 4 is a simple one, more coasters. There were plenty of makes and models thrown at me in the comments, but the general consensus is that you just want more. Simple as that. Okay folks, it's time for the top 3, but before we do, let's do some honourable mentions like we're flippin' Watch Mojo. Who hasn't thought about being a ride operator at least once in their life? Once you've finished building your park, wouldn't it be great if you could hop into the ride booth and take control of your favourite rides and coasters? Do the safety checks before getting to push the buttons yourself. Mix this with the addition of transfer tracks and then you're manually controlling how many trains you have on the track at any one time. Console players have 2 main complaints, and rightly so. Firstly, no custom media. On PC, we can upload our own images, videos and music to the game, and console players should absolutely be able to do the same. Secondly, the notorious Oswald Eugene counter. Whilst I understand why the build limit exists, I believe it should absolutely be optional, and the detriment of the frame rate should be at the player's discretion. Final honourable mention goes to King RCT, with the suggestion of a new game mode based on a timeline. You start your park in the 1920s with a focus on midway games and wooden coasters, then develop your park through the decades, receiving access to new attractions as they're developed. Okay, it's top 3 time. Coming in at number 3, it's all about those missing coaster elements. Some coasters simply can't be recreated without things like switch tracks and drop tracks, and I would sincerely hope these are added to the sequel. At number 2 is the coaster editor, or more specifically, coaster smoothing. Whether it's a more intuitive building mechanic or better smoothing tools, folks don't want to be faffing with the 4-meter method in order to get a nice smooth coaster. And finally, at number 1, a whopping 16 of you all asked for one thing: water parks. As we all know, Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 had the wonderful Soaked expansion for all things water, and the fact that the exact same devs didn't provide the same thing for Planet Coaster is almost criminal. So there we have it. I asked you to join the chat, and you certainly did, in full force, and I couldn't be more thankful. At whatever point Frontier developments are at with the game, I hope they can use this information and utilise it well. As always, stay tuned for further Planet Coaster 2 updates, and please consider subscribing to the channel. I don't just say it for the sake of it, you'd be helping support the channel, receive relevant content easier, and best of all, it's completely free. You'd be crazy not to. But whatever you do, have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.